That night, the faint crescent moonlight was just enough to illuminate the moss-covered tombstones. In the house next to the cemetery, the young couple who had just moved in were still gripped by fear because of the strange noises each night. They sighed that around midnight, the sound of gentle scratching at the window would echo, steady and persistent, as if someone were trying to find a way into the house. One night, the wife woke up with the unsettling feeling that someone was staring at her. She pulled back the curtain, and at that very moment, a shadow brushed past the window. Before she could scream, she felt an icy hand touch her shoulder. She turned around but no more one was there. One night, the wife woke up with the unsettling feeling that someone was staring at her. She pulled back the curtain, and at that very moment, a shadow brushed past the window. Before she could scream, she felt an icy hand touch her shoulder. She turned around but no more one was there. The next morning, the husband had vanished without a trace. All that remained was a single muddy, wet footprint leading from the bed straight toward the cemetery. When the police were called, they searched the entire cemetery but found no more sign of the missing husband. So there was only one strange grave, no more headstone, no more name, its freshly turned earth still damp. Stranger still, under the pale sunlight, they noticed crooked lines of writing etched into the soil, as if someone had hastily scribbled, "Do not awaken what has been buried." The wife, terrified but still clinging to hope, stayed behind to wait for her husband. Each night, she began to hear whispers, voices calling from beneath the floor, and the soft tapping right under the bed where she slept. One night, following the sounds that lured her, she discovered a locked cellar door in the basement. The lock was rusted, but as soon as her hand touched it, the door swung open on its own, as though whatever lay beneath was eager to be freed. When the door creaked open, the stench of mold, old blood, and a faint laugh echoed from the darkness within. Then, in the trembling light of her flashlight, she saw blood-stained words smeared across the stone wall. "Whoever enters here, there is no more turning back." The house seemed to have changed since the wife opened the cellar door. The air in the house grew stifling, as if someone were watching her every move. Whenever she entered a room, the door would close on its own. In the bathroom mirror, she saw a reflection of a figure that wasn't hers. She decided to return to the cemetery, with the secrets she couldn't yet understand were waiting. As she stood among the thousands of graves, a chilling sensation enveloped her. Suddenly, a dark figure emerged from among the tombstones, tall and shadowy, with eyes as red as blood. The cold, echoing footsteps reverberated through the cemetery. "You can't escape. They are waiting for you." The chilling voice from the darkness echoed. She rushed toward the shadow, but it had vanished, leaving only a trail of muddy footprints and the sound of heavy, rasping breaths rising from the depths. As she turned back, a freezing hand touched her shoulder. She spun around. Her husband was no more longer there. Instead, a dead face stared at her with wide, unblinking eyes, its lips moving in a silent curse. He is no more longer among the living. After her encounter with something in the cemetery, the wife returned home, but nothing was the same. The front door slammed shut behind her, and the lock turned tightly on its own, as if an invisible hand held it in place. On the wall, blood spread and formed the words, "You have set us free, now it's your turn." Every light bulb in the house shattered one by one. Each room echoed with moans, cries, and manic laughter rising from the basement. The wife, trembling, hid beneath the table, but the cold wine seeped through every crack. Every breath, every heartbeat felt as if it were being squeezed tight. Then suddenly, the clock stopped exactly at jam 12:40 m. They are believed to belong to demons. From the floor, a pale, decaying hand emerged, grabbing her leg and slowly dragging her toward the cold, unyielding ground. In that moment of panic, she saw her husband's face, but he was no more longer the man she once loved. That face was now twisted, torn, with blood streaming from his eyes, and a voice not of this world came from his mouth. "You've awakened the cursed. No more one leaves this place." A violent tremor split the floor beneath her. The wedding photos on the wall burst into flames, and from the fireplace, a faceless child stepped out, whispering, "Play with me, forever." The next morning, as the sun rose, everything fell into an eerie silence. The townsfolk living near the cemetery site never saw the wife again. The house now stood sealed, its thick curtains coated in dust. No more one entering or leaving, yet every night, the light still flickered inside, Andy's soft footsteps echoed through the empty halls. Some say that when passing by, they've seen a girl standing at the second floor window, her face pallid, her eyes empty, her lips moving as if whispering, pleading for help. But when they looked again, she was gone. An investigation team was once sent in, but after only a few minutes inside, one of them went mad, muttering the same sentence over and over. She's still so, beneath the ground, with the others. Since then, no more one has dared to go near the house by the cemetery. Inside, time seems frozen. The clock remains stuck at exactly pukul 3 a.m. The living room mirror still reflects things no more human eye can see. Andy every night, from the basement, a lullaby drifts up soft, gentle, from beyond the grave. Sleep now, sleep. Andy, your soul will be lonely no more. After the tragedy, the house was abandoned once more. But those living near the cemetery say they still sometimes hear the laughter of a child echoing in the dead of night. One night, a neighbor got up to use the bathroom. Andy glanced toward the window of the trend house. He saw the lights flickering in steady pulses as if someone inside were playing a game of red light, green light. He sighed. He clearly saw the silhouette of a child standing in the living room. It was facing away, but the moment he stepped onto the balcony, it turned its head. Andy's there was no more face. 8 months later, a group of students specializing in paranormal research arrived at the house to investigate. On the first night, they set up cameras throughout the house. Everything seemed normal until 3 a.m. The living room camera captured the image of a man floating against the ceiling, his head tilted to one side, eyes wide open, Andy staring. The next morning, one member of the group didn't wake up. He was found in the basement, lying motionless with 2 words carved into his forehead by fingernails: "Be silent." Since then, on every full moon night, the second floor window of the house swings wide open, though no more one lives inside. The curtain still gently sways, as if someone were standing there, watching.
25 years after the tragedy of the Tran family, the house still stands, covered in moss, its windows nailed shut with wooden planks, but the rumors persist. Anyone who stays past midnight, will hear their name being called from the basement. In July 2023, a popular ghost hunting reality show decided to film at the house. The team included 4 members, a director, a cameraman, a host, and a spiritual expert. The moment they stepped inside, the EMF detector began to beep uncontrollably. The temperature dropped unnaturally, and the wall clock with no batteries started ticking in reverse. On the first night of filming, the host James went down to the basement alone, as planned in the script. She unlocked the rusted door using a key that had been discovered in the attic. Strangely, it fit perfectly, though no one understood why. The basement was freezing, damp, and pitch dark. On the stone walls, dozens of small muddy handprints reached toward a deep recess covered by a piece of black cloth. Inside that recess was a wooden box, and when the box was opened, everything around them went completely dark. The whole group fell into a trance-like state. The cameras recorded footage of the team members murmuring the same sentence over and over in a dreamlike daze. The girl in white, she hasn't been buried. After that, the show was banned from airing. All footage was wiped from the hard drives except for one surviving clip, a grainy, unclear recording, showing the basement door slowly creaking open on its own every night at exactly 3 a.m. After the disappearance of the film crew, the house fell silent once again. But, soon after, a paranormal researcher named Elias Wren, once a pupil of a renowned sorcerer from the Carpathians, decided to investigate alone. He believed that the house by the cemetery was not only haunted, but was also the site of an ancient vengeful spirit, something that should never have been awakened. Elias Wren discovered an ancient manuscript in the church, detailing a brutal execution from the late 19th century. A 9-year-old girl, accused by the villagers of being the reincarnation of a vengeful spirit, was buried alive at the very boundary between the village and the cemetery, precisely where the house would later be built. The girl was never given a proper grave. No name, no offerings. Only one sentence was carved into the stone: "Until you are called by name, you will never find peace." Elias Wren dug right at the center of the house's basement. After 3 hours, he came across an old, cracked stone slab, beneath which was a small coffin made of black ironwood. But as soon as he lightly tapped the coffin lid, the entire house trembled. The flashlight flickered, and the floor began to crack, with long fissures appearing as if something was being drawn from beneath the earth. A faint white figure appeared behind him, her long hair covering her face, her feet not touching the ground. The girl reached out, gently touching Elias Wren's shoulder. But it was already too late. A woman from the village who didn't believe in spirits placed a new headstone on the child's grave, unknowingly inscribing the true name of the vengeful spirit. And from that moment on, every seal was broken. After the headstone was placed on the girl's grave, the strange phenomena grew even stronger. That very night, as the full moon bathed the cemetery in light, the house began to echo with eerie screeches as if something heavy was being dragged down a long hallway. A chilling cold enveloped every room, and some claimed they could hear faint breathing rising from the basement, the very spot where Elias Wren had once dug. Locals began whispering that on moonless nights, a faint, slender figure could be seen standing at the second-floor window, eyes wide open, gazing up at the sky as if waiting for someone. Some claimed they had seen her eyes pitch black, impossible to tell whether they belonged to a child or something far more sinister. There was no reflection in them. Instead, they seemed to absorb all light and life around them. One night, 3 months after the headstone had been replaced, a group of young explorers from the city arrived to investigate the house. Driven by curiosity and recklessness, they decided to spend the night and document everything on camera. As darkness fell, they split up and settled into different rooms within the house. One of them, named Dennis, chose to explore the basement, the very place where Elias Wren had once encountered the spirit of the girl. As he descended each step, a chilling gust of air struck him, freezing his entire body in place. At the end of the corridor, a locked door stood before him. Just as he reached out to open it, the soft giggle of a child echoed from behind. Turning around, Dennis saw a small figure standing in the darkness, her face half lit, half swallowed by shadow. Her long hair hung in messy, tangled strands. She smiled, but it was not a human smile. Her eyes were black voids, reflecting no light, only an abyss of endless darkness. "You're not leaving here? I'll play with you forever." Dennis immediately turned to run, but the door slammed shut behind him, locked by some unseen force. Panicked, he yanked at the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Then, from the darkness, an icy hand gripped his ankle and yanked him down onto the damp, cold floor. In a single breathless moment, he felt himself being dragged into what felt like the bottom of a deep, endless pit. His limbs refused to move, his vision blurred, and all he could hear was the little girl's laughter echoing inside his skull. Then suddenly, the laughter stopped, and a silence fell. A silence so thick, so unnatural, it felt like death itself had entered the room. When the remaining members of the group found Dennis the next morning, they saw only one thing: a small handprint pressed into his forehead, as if a child had gently placed their hand there. His lips kept moving, but no words came out. Investigators later discovered that the small handprints on Dennis's forehead were not the marks of any living being. They belonged to a soul crushed, tormented, and unable to find peace. In the days that followed, rumors about the house near the graveyard spread once again. People began to realize the chilling truth. It wasn't just one spirit trapped inside. It might be an entire gathering of vengeful souls, waiting for the moment to awaken. On rainy July nights, when the cemetery was soaked and puddled with water, a young woman named Lisa, a student majoring in cultural anthropology, decided to visit the house as part of her graduation thesis on folk legends and supernatural beliefs in Vietnam. Lisa was not like the ones who came before. She wasn't there for thrills or fame. She brought with her something no one else ever had: an ancient talisman passed down from her grandmother, a former shaman of the mountain tribes, along with a warning: if you go to that place, do not resist, just listen. And remember, do not speak its name unless you truly wish to save it. On her first night in the house, Lisa didn't feel fear. Instead, she felt sorrow. In the damp, dark space, the sound of a child crying no longer echoed with horror, as the legends claimed. It was a soft, broken sob, like a soul calling out for its mother. In the darkness, a cold mist coiled gently around Lisa like a shroud of fog. A small hand touched her shoulder. It didn't grip, didn't pull, didn't threaten. It was simply a touch seeking to be understood. The little girl in white appeared. Her long hair covered her face. Her tiny feet hovered just above the ground. But for the first time in decades, her eyes welled with tears. No longer deep wells of hatred, but the gaze of a lost soul. Lisa took out the ancient talisman, held it to her chest, and asked, "What's your name? Do you want to go home?" The girl didn't answer, but from within the walls a woman's voice echoed, as if from a distant realm. "Her name is Sam." The moment her true name was spoken, the entire house shook violently. Flashes of light blinked through the darkness, and then everything fell silent. Lisa lost consciousness. When she awoke, it was morning, and the house had changed completely. There was no more dampness, no more mud stains, no more tiny handprints. Everything felt cleansed, weightless, as if a door had finally been shut forever. Lisa later recounted her experience, but many still refused to believe her. However, from that day on, no strange phenomena ever occurred again at the house by the graveyard. The basement door was sealed shut, and on the patch of earth where the girl had been found, Lisa placed a bouquet of white flowers with a note that read, "Sam, the girl no one called by name. Now, someone remembers." After the night, Lisa broke the curse. The house by the graveyard was sealed off and later fenced in by local authorities as a spiritual, archaeological site of unknown origin. No one was allowed near. Lisa returned to the city and resumed her everyday life. But she carried with her invisible scars, endless dreams of a little girl standing at the crossroads between the living and the dead, waiting for someone to take her hand and lead her forward. One day, Lisa received a strange parcel with no return address. Inside was an old, tattered, leather-bound notebook. The writing on the cover had nearly faded, leaving behind only a faint phrase, "Testament of Shadows." She opened it. Inside were scattered pages filled with shaky, slanted handwriting. The journal of Dennis, the man who had once been touched by the girl Sam and lost his mind. The notebook revealed something no one had ever known. Sam was not the only one. She was just one of dozens of vengeful spirits buried around the old cemetery, a place that had once been an execution ground. The house's basement was merely the outermost door to an ancient catacomb system beneath the ground where failed sealing rituals had left souls buried, forever unable to move on. On the last page of the notebook, Dennis had scrawled in blood, "If someone speaks Sam's name, the first door will open. But to close them all, someone must choose to stay with them." Lisa stared blankly at the words, her hand trembling. She understood. Sam had been freed, but the gate had opened, and the other spirits were now waiting. The story ends here. Or rather, it's only just begun. Because if you ever stumble upon the house by the graveyard, if you hear someone calling your name in the wind, ... remember, some spirits don't mean harm, they just want to be remembered, but some names ... if you speak them aloud, you will never be yourself again. 1 year after the Testament of Shadows reached her hands, Lisa was no longer the carefree anthropology student she once was. She had switched her field of study, moved back to her rural hometown, and lived in seclusion. But the knocking never stopped. 3 knocks, every night, at exactly 3:33 a.m., and the whispers were getting closer. "You promised you'd come back." On a cold winter night, with the moon hanging like a bleeding eye in a grey sky, Lisa knew she had to return. One last time, she came back to the house, now wrapped in barbed wire, with a faded warning sign. "Danger zone, do not enter." But Lisa climbed the fence in silence. The house was not in ruins as she had expected. On the contrary, it looked freshly painted, the windows wide open, warm yellow light glowing from inside. As if it had been waiting for her, Lisa stepped in, carrying a candle, a sprig of wormwood, and a red thread, an ancient tool once used to anchor spirits during forbidden rites. She descended into the basement. The door swung open effortlessly, and a new hallway revealed itself, longer, darker, and deeper than any passage she had seen before. Lisa stepped forward, each footprint leaving a trail of cold mist upon the stone floor. Inside, she found hundreds of shattered, nameless grave markers, each marked only with a number. This was the burial ground of the forbidden children who were not allowed to live. Victims of ancient spirit-binding rituals, she knelt down, took out the red thread, planted the wormwood into the earth, and began to recite the numbers aloud, one by one. And with each number spoken, a small glimmer of light flickered in the darkness. Each flicker was a soul released from its chains, but then ... When she reached the final one, number 101, there was no light. Only a dark shape slid out from the stone wall, enormous, twisted, and inhuman. It was not a soul, it was the gatekeeper, a being not born, but forged, to guard those who were never meant to move on. And it was angry. Lisa had disrupted the balance. Suddenly, children's laughter echoed through the catacomb, rising and falling like wind in a forest of bones. You promised. Now you have to keep your word. Lisa closed her eyes. She pulled a small knife from her coat pocket, sliced into her palm. As her blood dripped onto the cold earth, she whispered, I accept, I'll stay, let them go. By morning, the house was gone, not collapsed, erased. Only bare soil remained, untouched, undisturbed. There were no signs of a basement, a hallway, or even a foundation. Lisa was never found. But in the years that followed, locals began to whisper. On nights of the blood moon, if you pressed your ear to the ground where the house once stood, you could hear the voice of a girl, speaking gently beneath the soft giggles of children.